All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Memches. No, is it Memches? No, Memtes.
Memtes.
Yeah. Oh, very good.
That's Tessie. Wait.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone's coming. Yeah.
Right here. Oh, here it is.
All right. So yesterday we got a lot of work. Right? So yesterday we Memtes of Aleph.
Okay.
So yesterday we started the Mishnah. The first case of the Mishnah was an animal intended for his fellow animal. So Zak the Gemara, 4 lines in the top. So So it sounds like if the animal went that and intended to born an animal, then killed a woman, then it's chayav to pit. It's then pata miskavel isha. But if the animal intended to mishalim to make bloodless. So let's say the animal intended to go ahead and injure a woman, and it injures her and kills her fetus. So then it would indeed the order. Indeed, the owner of the animal would pay for Dmei Vlados if it intended to go ahead and kill her. So let me tiavi tiyufta Ravada Baraba. So it should be a kasha and Ravada Baraba. Why? Because what did he say? Shorim sheniskavu liisha. An ox that goes ahead and tends to kill a pregnant woman and it gores her, let's say, and she miscarries. So the owner is pater from the brothers. So who I did I feel this kabbalah now even in the case of if he intended to go ahead and then gore the woman and gored her and gave her a miscarriage, also pater. Why? So why, please? So why did it say this case? So why to give this case specifically an ox that intended to go ahead and gore an ox, right, and then kill the woman? Why then kill the fetus of the pregnant woman? Why just say gore the woman? Why say this case? So I need to call the boy. Let me say seifa. Since we wanted to teach in the next case in the seifa, Adam shayam miskaven lechavero, right? That a person who was miskaven lechavero, a person who's trying to hit his friend and instead hit a woman. And this is the case of the pasuk. So too, the Reisha said just because we want to include the case of Adam miskaven lechavero. So too in the Reisha it says miskaven lechavero, even though that's not the only case where the owner of the animal is parted from Dmei Vlados. And Amra Papa Shorshin Agachas a Shifcha, the Yatsi Yadal, Mishalim Dmei Vlados. If an ox goes ahead and gores a Shifcha, then you're actually parted from the Dmei Vlados of paying for the value of the slave fetus. My taima, what's the reason? The Chamrasa Mabarta Bialma, right? Because it's considered like a pregnant animal. Right, who does it? Right, if one goes ahead and causes damage to someone's pregnant animal, he has to pay for damages. So too in this case, he has to pay damages to the owner of the slave. The pasuk says, "Wait here with the donkey," and referring to well. So therefore, they're in ways they are compared to an animal, and so just like you have to compensate for the goring and killing of an animal who miscarries, so too you got to go ahead and compensate for a slave that miscarries. Fine. 2 dots, first wide line. Ketzad Mishalim Dmei Vlados. So the Mishnah says, how you pay Dmei Vlados? We assess her before, we assess her afterwards, and the difference. So Gemara says Dmei Vlados. Shavach Vlados Mipoele. The amount that you're assessing isn't just for the fetus. No, if you're paying for the fetus, you just pay for what the value of a fetus would be, right? You seem to say that there's value of a larger woman, right? And there's she's bigger, she's healthier. Stronger, right? Like stronger like bull, right? Strong like ox. So there's shevach to her, and there's also the value of the fetus. So it should be both. So Gemara says, "Halkanami kamar." Yes, by those means, and since we're assessing the beginning value and the latter value, so yeah, indeed, we're talking about the difference in also assessing her. Kamar. So in other words, that's what we Halkanami kamar. Keita mishalim to make vlados the shevach vlados. Shamani Seisha, Kami Yafa, Ajla Yelda, how much she's worth before she gave birth while she's pregnant, but Kami Yafa, Mishielda, how much she's worth afterward. She decreases, and also she decreases because she lost the fetus. But now, as pointed out, which the Gemara just said, we're going to be talking about 2 different inyanim. All right, we'll just clear it up right now. One is the Dmei Vlados. The Dmei Vlados is the value for the fetus. That's Dmei Vlados. Shevach Vlados is the value that the woman increases by being a pregnant woman. So therefore, there's a value in her that her value increases not only from the fact that she has a fetus, but also her value increases. Now,
Not just,
what?
not just, and they're worth more based on size.
Right. Right, correct. That's the shavach. Right. That's what's called shavach brothers.
She's worth more now. I can tell you more on the market
right now. Right. So Amar Shingel. So then the Shingel said in our Mishnah, and we did not explain his line. Right, we're around the fourth wide line. So two dots. It says Amar Shingel in came Mishaisha Yoledis Mishabachas.
What's and we saw it with Rachel. Rachel, when she gave birth to Yosef, finally they left Lavan because she was already Meshubachat, no? I mean,
but what she was pregnant?
Yeah, with Yosef.
So she was.
So that's when Yaakov left because
her value was more.
He got strength.
So we'll soon see about strength. So let's see Rabbi Shimon statement first. So he says, no, once the woman gives birth, she goes up in value. No, it's opposite. Not when she's pregnant, she's worth less. When she's after, why is that? So my Kamar, what's going on? There's just two different shut. So was a woman worth more before she gives birth than after she gives birth? Right? She works more afterwards. Why? Because when a woman is pregnant, there's a risk. There's a risk that she could die, right, during labor. So therefore, there's a bit of a risk factor. So there's a risk factor, so her value is down. When after she gives birth, she's worth more. So that's what I mean. She's worth more afterwards. Rather means that you go ahead and says you just assess how much is a fetus, right? We don't care about the value of a woman. How much is the fetus, right? The fetus is worth X amount. The person will pay on the market, the black market, right? And then you give that to the husband or the father, of the pregnant woman. And Tanya Mahalki, similarly we learned. We have a price in support of what Rabbi just said. A woman goes up in value while she's pregnant. Right? Rather, her value goes up. Rather, we assess how much the blood is, and then we give that to the husband, nothing to do with the increase of value of the woman, because she actually decreases in value when she's pregnant. Now, that was Rabbah, and he brought a brisa to support himself. Okay, now we're going to have Rabbah, and then we're going to bring a brisa to support him, and then we're going to ask, well, if both these brises are Sheng Gamliel, that's a contradiction of Sheng Gamliel. Now, Rabbah Amar, Haki Ketani. No, this is what Rabbi Sheng Gamliel meant in our Mishnah. Lemisha Yeladas Mishabachas, Mishabachas ve'en la'atzam v'shabach v'lados klum. I understand. So the woman, right? You're saying so you pay the Tmei Vlados and the Shevach Vlados to the husband. I understand. So the increase, right, of her value, she's more woman to love, right? She's a bigger. So that value only goes to the husband, right? But she doesn't get, but she doesn't get anything to it. That doesn't make sense. Ella Shabbos Vlados v'Noisnin Labal. The Shabbos Vlados, Shabbos Vlados v'Noisnin Labal. Rather, what we do is we assess how much the fetus is, then we give that to the husband, and the Shabbos Vlados, and how much her value increases while she's pregnant, and then Cholkin. Those two are split between the. In other words, the father can say, "Hey, it was my fetus that caused you to become a larger, more valuable woman." So therefore, the husband who caused her,
the fetus,
right, the husband, right, or the husband, whatever you want to call it, right. So the Baal, as the pasuk refers to the person to, right. So he has half the rights to her increase in value, nothing to do with the fetus itself. In other words, her increase in value from the fetus is half due to her, half due to the husband, and therefore they would split that shevach. And Tanya Melchi, we have a brisa in support of this opinion of Rav of explanation of Rosh Gamliel. Amar Rosh Gamliel, that's only to the person who the father of the child. She doesn't. There's no value to her. The shevach is kulum. Ella, rather, what do we do? Show me nezek b'fnei. So we see, okay, how much is damage? How much did we give it to her? If it's tzar b'fnei asmo, and tzar, and the tzar is by itself. But shomin is v'lodos v'nois the baal. Then we assess how much was the fetus and give that to the husband or the baal. The shevach v'lodos, and then the shevach v'lodos are chokin. So the Gemara says, okay, you brought two brises, one support Rabba and one support Rabba. Kasha, so you have two contradictory brises which state different things that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said. So the Gemara says, no, loy kasha. One is the case when she already gave birth. Now, the whole argument originally, according to Rabba, was there's a risk that she might die from child labor. But if she already knows it's not her first rodeo, right? She's already given birth a couple times. So the risk is much less. So therefore, since the risk is much less, therefore she doesn't go down during pregnancy. So that would be the case. If she already gave birth before, then that's when she increases due to her larger size, right? And according to the one that says, no, it decreases, that is referring to the one that now this is her first time giving birth. And according to the Rabbanan who argue, and they say, no, the woman's, right, the larger woman value, right, who goes, that split, we just said split 50-50 according to Shem Gamliel, that she has shaykhs too. According to the Rabbanan, the Amri Shevach Vlodos Nami Labal, the husband not only gets the value of the fetus, is paid to him per the pasuk, also he gets the value of her increase for being a larger woman. My time, well, what's the reason? In the Mishnah says, right? So the pasuk over there says, I'm just reading for the pasuk on the side, it says, two men are fighting, and they hit a woman, and she was pregnant, and she miscarried. So it says, right? She miscarried. I don't know if she was pregnant. Why do you got to say she was pregnant and she miscarried? Just say she miscarried. Obviously, I know she was pregnant, right? So why does he have to say that she was pregnant? So that Shevach Hariyom Labal, that not only the value of the fetus, but even the value of the pregnancy goes to the Baal. Rishon Gamliel, who argues and says, no, that it's divided between her and him. It doesn't go specifically to the husband. So what would you say this word of Hara? So, hi, Hara, my Darshibay. What's it do? Right? The person is not chayv unless he hits her, in other words, that she is struck in the place of the womb. And that's and that's all it pays. But it was another shot to her, and then punch in the head or whatever it was. Then the guy would be put for paying the husband the dmei flat. And if Papa late tema keneged beis harion mamish helakol heicha the selling beis sheyach l'bad. Anywhere that you would hit, it would go to the fetus. Then the person who hit her would be chayiv for dmei vlados la'afuki to exclude yad v'regel delor. If he hits her in the yad regel, and let's say she does miscarry from such a strike, so such a case they would be pater from dmei vlados because only in the makom of of her stomach. So haisa shivcha v'dishar agir pater. Now, if let's say that the pregnant woman who was struck and miscarried, if she was a shivcha and she was freed. Right. In other words, that she was, let's say, there was a shivcha and freed, or she was a giyaris, then it's pater because l'chayra, right? There is no bow, right? L'chayra at this point, no bow. Let's see what's going on here. So I'm a rabba loisham el shechava b'chay hager umeis hager. Why can't she get it? Because the pasuk says labal, you give it to the husband, and therefore normally goes to the husband. If he's not around, it doesn't even go to her. It goes to his yorshin. And if there's nobody there, then she has no rights over anybody else, and therefore no one can go ahead and extract the payment from the owner because there is no claimant. So that would be to answer your question. Yeah. What? There is no, it's not a claim for payment.
Doesn't get any.
She doesn't get any. She doesn't get anything, right? It's not hers. The bow, right? This would not go well on social media today, right? The Rover sway that the husband owns the fetus. Yeah, it's between him and his doctor.
There's nobody giving money to. He owns her.
So what?
Nobody because the husband died also.
Right. So that's what we're saying. Right. So let's see. Right. That what? Oh, then it goes to yeah. You're right. No husband, and right. If there was no husband, then it goes to the Yarshin, and if that woman was a shivcha who was freed, or Giyaris is pater, in other words, there is no husband, then pater. So the Gemara says, "I'm a rabbi loishan al shechavo ba b'chayi hager umeis." We're only talking about a case. Let's say the guy hit her while the ger was still alive. Umeis hager, and then he died. Umeis hager. The cave and the chavo ba b'chayi hager. That since he hit her while he was alive, zacha b'hu ger. Then the ger would acquire it, right? Then the ger would acquire it because he was alive. He was zaycha while she was hit, and then he was no longer there to collect the payment. The cave and the mace hager zacha b'hu min hager. So therefore, then a person says, okay, the ger acquired it. He has no yarshin, so therefore, there's no one else to claim the money. But let's say that the guy was gone, there was no ger husband, right? And then he hit her. So now, so he said the achar misas hager. So right? So here's the case where she gets it. In other words, since there wasn't a ger from the time of the strike, so therefore, who's now the claimant? The woman, because the husband's not around. So since the woman's around, so therefore the woman gets it. He is chayav to pay. It's only if the ger was zoiche in it in his life, then he gets it. And then if he has no yarshin, then there's no one to pay. But if he was not around from day one, right, and i.e. when she was struck, so then that's the case. Then she would go ahead and get it. So Amar Rav Chisda, who understand? Are we talking about over here where it's like some sort of rocks or something that the person could acquire? The woman acquires it. How does the woman acquire it? How does she acquire it to be vladas? Because the guy's not alive. She doesn't acquire it. She didn't pick up and make a kinyan. It's to the husband. The husband's out of here. It goes to nobody. She shouldn't have shaykhs to it. If the husband is alive, the Torah gives it to him. Let's say Labal, and if the husband is not alive, then the husband doesn't get it. Nobody gets it. It's a meisvei. So ask you a question, not just and Rabbah, the one who says the woman gets it. So he can say Yisha v'yatzal. So if he hits a woman and she miscarries, so nice and as if it's Isha. So the woman gets the pain and suffering. That payment is separate. But the Meiflados, then the value of the fetus goes to the husband. And Ein Habal, if the Baal's not around, nice in the Yoshev, then you go ahead and give it to his kids. And Ein Isha, if the woman is not around in order to go ahead and receive the Nezek and Sar, then nice in the Yoshel, you give her descendants, right? Her kids. That's her first marriage. Haisa Shevcha, the Nishachara. Oh, Gyaris. Let's say in this case, right? And let's say she was a shivka, or she was who was freed, or Gyaris, then zach, right? Then in such a case, we say that he acquired it, right? So in other words, so what do you see over here? That that the husband acquires it. So in this case, if you say over here that the zayka to the rights, in other words, that the person, right? No, in this case, we say zacha hachayvel. Now the guy who hits, he's the one who's zayka, and therefore he doesn't have to go ahead and pay. But I understand, according to you, right, Rabbah, you just said that the woman acquires it if there's no husband, right? Why do you say that the guy is pater ben because he's zayka? So Gemara says, "Amri umi adiv masnisin lukim." Right? I understand. So this is a bride. So we just had a kash from Mishnah, and we explained the Mishnah a different way. Tukino, we said it there. The ger was alive, and therefore he was alive, and therefore he earned the rights to it while he was alive. Then he died. Umeisa ger, and therefore there was no yarshin. So therefore the hitter, he's the one who goes ahead and keeps the money. So Achanan will say in the same case of Isha, umeisa ger. So we can say to give the same tears as we gave in the Mishnah, or if the ger dies, according to Rabbah, what does it say? Vitani, it doesn't say zacha, it says zachsa, right?
Oh.
She gets it. And according to Rabbah, but Farish, it says that if there is no husband, there is no Baal, because he died before she was hit and miscarried, then she is the one who gets can collect the payments. So Leimo Kitanoi, let's say this is Machlokes tonight. Between Rav Chisda, who says that the woman has no shaykhs to it, versus Rabbah, who says the woman does, if there's no husband around, then she gets into Mevados. No, he's dead before. Let's see. So Bas Yisrael went out and married a ger, and then she got pregnant. And then she was hit while he was alive. So now you're saying right? Then you give the Dveivados to her husband. But however, if it was after he died, the one bride says chayiv, the potter one says chayiv. The chayiv means go ahead and pay the wife because there's no Yorsh in there. Pay the wife. But that one says potter. The person, the assailant is completely potter because there is no claimant, there is no husband, and the woman does not take the place of the husband. Potter. So my love tonight, so this is not machlokes time. So the Gemara says, but wait. So the Rabbah, according to Rabbah, says that she gets tonight. Yes, indeed, it's a machlokes. There was one the chayiv to pay the woman or potter for paying. El Rav Chisa, but according to Rav Chisa, milema tonight. Do you have to say it's a machlokes tonight? So like kasha harabana harashun gamliel. One is the Rabbanan, and the other opinion is Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Now we said earlier, now what were they arguing on the case earlier? Rabbanan and Shimon Gamliel. They were arguing about the value of the woman's increased value in her larger size, right? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says it's partially to her, right? In other words, and according to Rabbanan, only goes to him. So maybe that's the machlokes over there. The machlokes isn't about the demei vlados. It's about the shevach vlados. It's nothing to do with the fetus. It has to do with her size. And that which it says you're chayiv to pay, according to Rabbanan, because according to Rabbanan, the husband owns the rights to the woman's increasing value in her size. And according to Gamliel, no, that's she splits it. It's chokin. Actually, it was the opposite. And according to that, then Gamliel says that they would be split. I think, right?
What kind of payments are we talking about?
What I mean, the shevach vlados, her increased value from being pregnant, right? And who owns that value? Is it the husband because his fetus caused her to become larger, or is it the two of them together, and therefore she has shaykhus with that payment?
Yeah, but she would still be entitled for things like boshes and.
Yeah. That she owns. That for sure she owns. Any tsar, that goes to her, right? We're talking about the loss of pregnancy. And there's two losses. There's the fetus itself, and then there's also, and then according to some interpretations, her increase or decrease in value from the pregnancy. Now, so here my area lacher misa. I understand it is Rav Shimon who says that she has shaykhus now to her shevach vlados, to her increase in value, her larger size. That also goes to her. So what do you mean? Only if the husband dies, then she gets it. Even if he's alive, she gets it because we just said it's cholkin. So Gemara says, yeah, you're right. Yes, while she's alive, she gets half. Over here, we're talking about Lachamis's kula. Over here, we're talking about the full payment. Or if anybody say, because there's all Rosh Hashanah and Kama Shevach Vlados become a Dvei Vlados. One is the case of Shevach Vlados. Case of Shevach Vlados, she gets. If she gets, and there is no husband around, but she gets, so therefore he's the assailant, he is chayiv to go ahead and pay. But if we're talking about the Dvei Vlados, then there is no husband because he died, and therefore no one gets it. So how many say Mishevach Vlados, Lishman Dvei Vlados? And by the fact that over here, that we're arguing in the case of the Shevach Vlados whether or not, so we can also go ahead and learn out the Dmei Vlados. And also, we should also learn according to the Rabbanan. In this case, in other words, that they should both agree in this case that she should be able to collect it. So it not only because since she can go ahead and collect the Shevach Vlados, she should be able to go ahead and collect the Dmei Vlados according to both. Some of they say low. Shevach Vlados, when it comes to the Shevach Vlados, over here do we say the Shaykha Yadeh B'Gavayu. Since she has already a Shaykha, she already is entitled to half it. So therefore, since she's entitled to half of it, and the other half there is nobody entitled to because the husband died, so therefore she would get all of it. However, when it comes to the value of the fetus itself, right? The law is that she does not have a hand in it. She doesn't have any part in it. Therefore, we'll say, and therefore, in such a case, she doesn't get any of that in that case. So therefore, there's a big distinction. In the case of the Shelach Vlados, so that can go to the woman because she is Shachasut. But with the fetus payment, that has nothing to do with her, and therefore she does not acquire that at all. And therefore, in that case, if the husband, the ger who is dead, her husband who is a ger is dead, is no yarshin. Therefore, the guy would be patur from paying. So boy mine Rav Yiva Saba Rav Nachman Hamachzik b'shtaroisav shel ger. Speaking of a ger, let's say someone goes ahead and grabs some loan documents, some liens on someone's land of a ger. The ger died, no yorshin, first come, first serve. Someone goes ahead and takes a piece of paper. Shel ger, mahu. If he's picking up the paper in order to acquire the land, right? Then over there, since in that case, when he grabs a piece of paper, he's thinking about acquiring the land. He does not acquire the land. You can't make a kid in the land by holding a piece of paper that's a mortgage to it, right? That's not how you acquire land. So therefore, since he didn't acquire the land, he also doesn't go ahead and acquire the document. However, so therefore he doesn't acquire the document. The lava died to the shtar because his mind was on the shtar. His mind was on the land. Or maybe his by picking up the paper, he not only did he want to go ahead and get the land, but he also wanted the shtar. Samarle, Ani, Mari, Vichilatsur, Apitsuchasa, sorry. So I say, well, why is he taking a piece of paper? Who cares about if he doesn't acquire land? Who cares about the piece of paper? What does he need a piece of paper to go ahead and use it as a bottle stopper? Samarle, yeah, let's sir. Yeah, why not? Yeah, let him go ahead and acquire it that way. So in Economy, he should acquire the land, the piece of paper. He just doesn't acquire the rights that are written in the piece of paper to acquire the land. Fine. Now, Omer Rabba, what about this case? Mashkano, so we're just bringing a different case of ger. So he says, Mashkano shall Yisrael biyad ger. Right? So if my mashkon is in the hands of a ger, in other words, I borrowed money from a ger. Okay? I borrowed money from a ger, and therefore he says, yo, how can I go ahead and receive the payment? So I said, okay, keep my sweatshirt, right? My raven sweatshirt. Right, what am I many? So then someone else goes ahead into the house, and the ger's house, first come first serve. Oh, I see a sweatshirt. I'm going to go ahead and take this one. I can go ahead and say, hey, buddy, that's my sweatshirt. You don't acquire my time. Since the ger died, any lien or whatever he had, right, on this sweatshirt, the loan, the $100 I borrowed from him is now gone. There's no one to collect it. So therefore, I don't owe $100 anymore. And therefore, it's my sweatshirt. I get it back. What about the other case? If I go ahead and I lend the ger $100, he gives me a sweatshirt. And he then the ger died. Now I have his sweatshirt in my house, right? And there's no one to pay me back the money. And then someone else from me comes along and grabs a sweatshirt. He said, the guy died, I'm going to go ahead and take it. So that kind of connected me. So if, let's say, the money was, the sweatshirt it was $150 and it was $100 loan. So $100 of the sweatshirt belonged to me. Right, because that was my shibud on it. Therefore, I have the rights to that. And the other guy, Avrami, will go ahead and the other $50 of the sweatshirt belongs to him. One says, why is that the case? If this sweatshirt was in my house and the guy died, and then Avrami comes the next day to pick up a sweatshirt, why did my chatzir acquire the sweatshirt? It was in my property. My property should have made a kiddush. Should be mine. Could even go ahead and acquire it even without my knowledge or my consent. Since it's in my house, I only found out later on that the guy died. So they say, the less say, right? Where he's not around. In other words, I'm not around. What do you mean? So call hey so is the kanile nami chatzer. If I'm around and I want to go ahead and acquire it, so I can choose. So therefore, my chatzir can acquire it for me. However, but if I'm not around, so therefore, if I'm out of town and I can't acquire it, right? There's no way for me to acquire it. So therefore, chatzer nami lekani. So therefore, my chatzer would also not acquire it. No, the chatzer is only working when I'm in town. I'm near the chatzer. Since I can go ahead and acquire it, my chatzer can acquire it. But if I can't acquire it because I'm out of town, then my chatzer is acquired. And that's the reason why Avrami would get the other portion of the thing. And the less the leikani, right? When he's not around, then chatzer leikani. Then his chatzer is. 1 second, right? So he says, right? In other words, if it's not in the chatzir, right? That in other words, when he died, then he would not be. So the hilchos actually, right? In other words, right, a little bit different case. The hilchos, the less say bechatzero, right, where the object is not in the chatzir, then the loikani, all right, and therefore he would not acquire it at the time of his death.
But the sweatshirt wasn't in the house.
Right. In that case, it wouldn't be. Right. Sounds like if it was there, then it would have acquired it. It would have acquired in that case. Right. Now, Mishnah. So just a couple more minutes. Trying to get to this next page. So, the one who goes ahead and digs a pit, right? He extended it, and there's an opening. The opening to it is from the Rishus Harabim to my pit. Or if I don't Rishus Harabim, right? And then I opened it to Rishus Yachid. And then I allowed people to go ahead and I was mafker the area around my Rishus Yachid, possible Rishus Yachid, or from my entrance to somewhere else. And then over there, it was other people. Chai. All these cases are chai, because since people have a right to be right by the entrance of the pit, therefore, they can fall in the pit. Therefore, it's on me in any of these cases. Obviously, if the pit, but the only entrance is from my yard, and I keep my yard, so then, if someone enters my yard without permission, falls in the pit, then I would be potter. But we're not talking about that over here. We're talking about where he allows people to go ahead and walk up. He's mafker the area right next to the Pesach, and therefore he is chayiv in such a case. So Tanra Baran Chayfer Bor B'Shus Hayachid Upaschu the Shus Harabim. So one goes ahead and opens the Rishus Yachid in his property, and he opens the Rishus Harabim. Right, in such a case, he is chayiv. He is chayiv. The Zehu Bor Sh'Amar B'Torah Divi Rabbi Yishmael. That's according to Rabbi Yishmael. In other words, when a person digs in his property, opens the Rishus Harabim, that's what the pasuk is referring to. And Rabbi Kiva Aimer Hivker Rishusa V'Lo Hivker Rishusa V'Lo Hivker Bor. No. In other words, maybe he over there. So it's a Chayfer Bor B'Shus. Right. So over there, so as says Rabbi Kiva, no, if he goes ahead and is mafkir, right, his rishus, and he doesn't mafkir his bor, that's referring to, in other words, that I still own the pit, but I don't own the area around it, right? Because I was mafkir that. That is the bor in the Torah. So what's going on here? So Amar Rav, let's explain the machlokes real quick. So the bor b'shus harabim, if one goes ahead and digs a pit and there's a rishus harabim, everyone agrees he's chayiv. Why? My time. Amar Kar, the pasuk says. When he opens up a pit, or when he digs a pit. Now, where it says, okay, if I'm chayiv for opening a pit, certainly I should be chayiv for digging the pit and leaving it open. So Elo shall escape psicha, they'll escape bria baralo. In other words, no, that in other words, it means to tell you that whether it's the digging of the pit or the uncovering of it, that is what makes one chayiv. Nothing to do with whether you own the pit or not. It's rather just opening it or digging it. And therefore, if it's done with Rishus Harabim, everyone agrees. However, what's the machlokes in Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Kiva? Nechlu Ella, turn the page. Bebor b'shuso, when the pit was originally in his own rishus. Rabbi Kiva saber bor b'shuso nami chayiv. Rabbi Kiva says no, not only in the Rishus Harabim, but even if it was his own pit, he's chayiv. Nami chayiv ksiv bal habor. Now, it's if I dig it on my property, right? Obviously, I can leave a pit on my property. Someone comes in and damages it, I'm potter, right? It means I dig a pit on my property, and then I'm mafkir my land. So if someone comes in, I'm called the bal habor. So even if I originally dug it while I owned it, then I was mafkir it, I'm still chayiv. Right? These so now is bal habor. Babor, these say bal. Come on, Rahman. That's what the Torah is talking about. So the Torah is talking about a case where the guy owned the board, then he used mafkir. Rabbi Shmuel said, no. What does it mean? He digs it only in the public property. If you dig in your yard of mafkir, you're potter. Only public property. Right. Rabbi Shmuel said, what does it mean? Bal mean? Bal hatakala. In other words, he's the owner, but he's the owner of any sort of what's it called? Any sort of takola, right? The damage that could be caused. So elamaizel bor omer Torah. I mean, to come Rabbi Kiva. Zabor shapasa ba'akasav tchila. The tashlum. In other words, that's the first pasuk over there was talking about. Doesn't mean it's the one. It means that this is the first one that the Torah is talking about of where one is chayv. And that's referring to a case of where a person digs a pit and then he is mafkir it. That would be the case of where he's chayv. That's the part referring to.
So
All right, we'll stop here.
property.
Yeah.